Hi everyone, you're with Tesla Tom, and thanks for joining us on Ludicrous Feed. Today we're going to focus on Tesla's submission to the Select Committee on Electric Vehicles established by the Australian Senate in Canberra, our nation's capital. Before we do so, as always, I'd like to thank our loyal supporters. We're over 1,400 subscribers at the time of posting this video. This channel wouldn't be what it is without all of you, so thank you very much. If you'd like to join us in the energy revolution, please take a moment to hit that red subscribe button to stay in touch with our latest videos. So the Australian Senate has formed a Select Committee on Electric Vehicles looking at the usage and manufacture of electric vehicles in Australia. There was also an open invitation to interested stakeholders to provide submissions to this committee for consideration. There are over 100 submissions publicly available on the Parliament of Australia website, which I will provide the link for in the description below. In this video, I'm going to run through the highlights of Tesla's submission to this inquiry, starting with an introduction to the current state of play in Australia with regards to electric vehicles. In Australia, our fuels used to power our cars have 15 times the amount of sulfur in fuels commonly found in Europe and Japan. It has been predicted by 2030, if left unchecked, there will be 100% dependence on imported petroleum. Australia is rich in mineral reserves of lithium, nickel and graphite necessary for the manufacture of electric vehicles, in particular the batteries needed to power these cars. Currently, Australia is 7 years behind the average worldwide electric vehicle adoption rate. A recent survey by the Royal Automotive Club of Victoria showed that 50% of the car buying population would prefer an electric vehicle for their next purchase. And at the way things are going around the world, the prediction is that by 2025, the price of electric vehicles will be on par with their internal combustion engine counterparts and will continue to fall in price thereafter. So as it stands, it seems that consumer demand and appetite is not to blame for the lackluster uptake of electric vehicles in Australia. It's actually government leadership that's the main barrier. Where our government can influence and encourage Australians to rally behind electric vehicles is to provide adequate charging infrastructure, facilitate the amount of choice that consumers have by encouraging car makers to provide their electric models on the market, be responsible for the provision of information and education of the populace on the benefits of electric vehicles, and remove financial and taxation barriers that may hinder the purchase of such vehicles. New Zealand always beat us in the rugby. Now they're also ahead of us in the electric car revolution. New Zealand has more electric cars than Australia. I'll let that sink in for a minute there. Australia has 24 million people. New Zealand doesn't even have 5 million people. The New Zealand government has set an ambitious target to double the amount of electric cars every year to 2021, and they're hitting that target and then some. They're doing this by actively promoting public education, providing temporary exemptions for road registration, improving charging infrastructure, and reforming their taxation laws around the lease purchasing of electric vehicles. What about the Brits? We love it when we win the Ashes, but sadly they are smoking us at the moment when it comes to electric cars. In the United Kingdom, they have set a target of 50 to 70% electric car sales by 2030 and 100% by 2040. That's only 22 years away. They are reportedly providing the equivalent of up to 14,000 Australian dollars in government subsidies for new electric car purchases. What about here in the land down under? Well, Tesla claimed that they have the largest electric vehicle charging network in Australia, with 118 superchargers and over 500 destination chargers. Just quickly, I have no doubt that Tesla have the largest network, although the figure of 118 superchargers seems a bit high. Maybe they're counting all the ones that are currently in the planning and approval stages. Those destination chargers are always linked to local businesses too, which means they are helping the local economy. We know that over 90% of Tesla owners currently charge their cars at home. Here are the 4 main benefits of electric vehicle uptake in Australia. There are safety, health, environmental and economic benefits. Let's start with safety. The Model S set a new safety record when it was first tested. The Model X is the safest SUV on the market and the second safest car, runner-up only to the Model S. Electric vehicles are safer in general because there is a larger crumple zone to absorb a front-on impact due to the fact that there is no internal combustion engine. There is also a much lower risk of the car rolling over because of the heavy battery lying on the floor of electric vehicles. In fact, independent tests have shown that the Model S will refuse to roll over when using standardized tests. In terms of health, vehicle emissions from internal combustion engine cars account for 40% more deaths than the road toll in Australia, according to the Melbourne Energy Institute. This figure calculates deaths from cancers and other illnesses attributed to particulate matter from urban air pollution. Obviously, there are no tailpipe emissions from an electric vehicle, which would dramatically improve air quality on our roads. From an environmental point of view, electric vehicles have the potential to source its electricity from 100% renewable energy sources. An internal combustion engine car will never be fueled by any renewable energy sources, no matter how efficient it becomes. Electric cars can be charged at home, utilizing solar energy and batteries. Tesla superchargers in Australia are carbon offset. electric cars also get cleaner as they age. Every EV bought today will be more carbon efficient in 10 years' time as renewable energy targets are slowly met in Australia. Finally, there are also economic benefits. There's no doubt that electric vehicles are cheaper to run. As I've demonstrated in a previous video, they incur lower electricity costs to drive the same distance, and they also require less maintenance. An internal combustion engine car's drivetrain has almost 2,000 moving parts, while an EV has less than 20 moving parts in its powertrain. I'll briefly mention self-driving and autonomous potential here for much further into the future. One day we may no longer need to own our own cars, given we may be able to hail a self-driving car to get us to our destination. That could make things more cost efficient. In 2017, the very last Holden car rolled off the line at South Australia's Elizabeth plant, signalling the end of Australia's car manufacturing industry. Could a revival occur with Australian-made electric cars? It makes good theoretical sense if you think about it. We have the minerals needed to make lithium batteries. If we made our own batteries, it would reduce transportation costs and tariffs associated with importing them. We have a highly skilled workforce, and to boot, we currently have good regional trade relationships with the USA and China. But for this to occur, we really need good local demand for electric vehicles here in Australia. And how does this occur? Yep, you guessed it, strong government policy. Alright, to finish off, I'm going to list 3 challenges that Tesla have outlined in their submission, the first being the issue of residential charging. If you own a house, then it's easy. You install the wall charger and away you go. If you rent or if you live in an apartment, then it's not so easy. We don't want to create a class divide in this country whereby only homeowners can own electric cars. So again, we need governments to help relax laws or create standardized strata bylaws to allow EV owners to install chargers in their apartment parking lots. Let's take a look at what happens in Amsterdam in the Netherlands. Over there, if you own an electric car, you can apply to install an on-street charger in a public parking spot within 300 meters of your home. Brilliant! There are parking permits for the EV owner which allow them to charge at certain times, while at other times it remains a revenue-generating public parking spot. The second issue is that of range anxiety. I get asked this by a lot of people. Where do you charge on the road? Well, again, this is where the government has to step up, like in the example of our Kiwi neighbours. There needs to be public funding for charging infrastructure like what has happened in Queensland with their electric highway. These chargers have to be really easy to use and activate, even easier than a petrol pump in my opinion. They need to be fast DC chargers, and they need to also use one standardised plug. It looks like we're heading towards the CCS Type 2 plug, I would say. And just quickly, I'll mention taxation. A large portion of Australians will use the cost of running their vehicle as a tax deduction. The problem is that this disadvantages electric cars because you can't claim electricity as a fuel source. So many people will just go back to buying an internal combustion engine vehicle just because it's easier to claim the petrol as a work or business expense. This needs to improve. I won't delve too much into this because I'm definitely not an accountant or tax lawyer, but one way is to maybe allow for deductions for the purchase of solar or home batteries if you can prove that you also own an electric vehicle. Certainly food for thought. Guys, knowledge is power, there's no doubt about it. The more informed you are, the better choices you are going to make. Let's swallow our pride and follow New Zealand's example here. Let's start with a public education campaign, inform the masses on the advantages of the electric vehicle, let them know how good it is. Then help them transition over from a petrol-powered car to an electric vehicle. We need government websites that provide accurate and factual information. It's not hard, we just need the right people to get the ball rolling. I guess I'm thankful that there is a Parliamentary Senate inquiry currently happening. Hopefully this is the start of the energy revolution that we've all been waiting for. Being 7 years behind the rest of the world is really quite shameful considering we are supposed to be a first world country. But I'm hopeful that things will change very soon when the Senate report comes out later this year. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed that summary of Tesla's submission. Like I said, there are over 100 of them, and I'll handpick a few more important ones that catch my eye and provide summaries of them for you too in the next few weeks. Well, I hope it's a lovely day wherever you are in this world, and as always, happy charging. Thanks for watching, and thanks for being part of the energy revolution. If you haven't done so already, be sure to hit subscribe to keep up to date with our latest videos. If you're about to buy a Tesla, use our promo code on screen to score $100 in supercharging credit. Happy charging!